Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, we'll talk about that, Your Excellency. Given the impression people have about the Amajiri system of education, how connected it is with religion, how hard or easy was it for you to come up with that executive order banning strict begging?
You see, I went to the system that we have. That's why I say some kind of a hypocrisy that goes not only in Nigeria, really around the world. I live most of my working career in the US, for instance. If a black man calls a black man Negro, nobody worries about that. If he says nigger, in fact, he says, you nigger, hey, you nigger, nobody worries about that. But if a white man calls a black man nigger, it's a huge problem. Okay, so it's the same thing. If a northerner, it has to take a northerner to take this system of Almajiri system. Because if anybody else will do it, it is going to cause a lot of problems. I was an Almajiri myself.
Pardon me. Is that why what the previous government did about it didn't seem to have the desired results afterwards?
No, I think, sometimes when we take the decisions, there are no concrete plans on the ground to follow it up. Because one government may take a decision and then it goes a few days and then that's the end of it, they forget it and then they move on. That's why I said whatever decision we're taking has to be comprehensive. How do we sustain it? Because sustainability has been an issue. So what we are doing that is a little bit different in this case is that you can see me all over the places. I went to the Minister of Humanitarian, I say, how can you assist us? I have seen some development partners, I say, how can you assist us, for us to do that? And the good thing for us in Nasarawa State is we have only 60-something thousand of them. In places like Kano, where he has 3 million of them, it becomes more difficult to handle. So I wanted to use the opportunity, since we don't have a huge number in Nasarawa, we can design a model, sustain it, and then see if others can copy from it.
And you said you were an Almajiri yourself.
You see, the word Almajiri, it comes from a scholar. An Islamic scholar is an Almajiri. But in our own case was different. We were going to school in the morning. In the evening, we went to the Arabic school. So we were Almajiris. Okay? So Almajiri is the child who is sent to acquire Islamic education. And you cannot be a true Muslim if you don't acquire Islamic education. And the best time to acquire that is when you are a child. But the Almajiris we have today are people who shy away from their responsibility. Some of these kids are the ages of 6, 7, 8. And somebody gives birth to 10, 15 children, and he can't cater for them. He takes them from his own home. He takes them to another city, sometimes another state, and say, go and acquire Islamic education. He drops them with this teacher, no provision for their feeding, no provision for their accommodation, no provision for their clothes, nothing whatsoever. And the Malan himself, who is taking custody of this child, has no means of even sustaining himself. So they end up now sending these children and taxing them, sending them to the streets, and then taxing the children that, okay, you, because you are 6 years old, your tax today is going to be 200 naira. You that are 8 years old or 10 years old, your tax is 500 naira. And these children are going to go and do whatever it is that is possible to acquire this money. So the time that they should stay going to school is the time they are staying on the street begging. That is what we are against.
So I see the executive order prescribes a 10-year jail term for parents.
Yes.
What about, because it's like a chain, there's a parents, there's also the teachers, which you talk about. So how do you handle the area of the teachers also?
With the teachers, we started by some kind of, first we are talking to them, some kind of sensitization. Before we took the decision, I invited all the teachers. They have an association. We invited them. And the decisions we have taken is actually in coordination with them. Okay? I invited them. I told them our ideas, and they say they are also worried about it. One of them, in fact, their president was the one that you saw in the news, who answered and said that unless we are getting support, but because you can see the sarcastic nature of the response. You are not asking for support from the parent who sent the child to you. You are asking for support from government. So that's the kind of thing we try to educate them and say that, government will support, no problem. And we're in the position to do that. Right now, we are trying to identify children who are those kind of ages, whose parents are in Nasarawa State. No problem. They should go to the school, but they should be sleeping at their parents' homes. So parents should take care of them, okay? Take responsibility for them, yes.
You talked about sustainability of the program the other time. We have been worried over time about fantastic ideas that are started by one government that may not be sustained should there be a change in government subsequently, what's the plan to ensure that that program is sustained for decades?
One of the reasons why governments don't sustain this kind of programs is funding. So sometimes they will say, government doesn't have the resources, like right now, what we are going to go through, okay? We budgeted crude oil price at 50-something. We are now at 30-something. So of course, all federal allocation is going to come at some amount, much lower. So if any government comes in, they will say, we don't have the money to provide. So that's the reason why we are getting development partners, people who can also be part of it. And then from the part of the government, we do it from internally generated revenue. We don't want to rely on federation account revenue. So we say from this revenue, this is what we are going to do. On the part of the Malams, we are going to restrict them about how many they can have. Because some of them will tell you, I have 300 of them, and you will not see 10 of them in front of him studying. All the 300 are out there in the market. So we say, no, you can't have 300 because you don't have provision for 300 to sleep. So you can have only 50. So those are the kinds of things that we'll do on our own part. But as you agreed, yes, it's possible. Another government can come and say, no, you can take 100. And then they run into problems. But what we are trying to do is to make it easy for any government that is serious about it to be able to sustain it.
What is the thinking? Do you think that your colleagues, northern governors, are on the same page? And how many of them, for those who are not, what should be done such that they can see the same reason as to why you've done what you've done?
I think every governor in the north, we had the northern governors meeting in Kaduna, and then there was a presentation. And I didn't see one governor who was against it. So I will assume every northern governor is on the same page. Now, when they will implement it, it's a different thing, because for now, it's just 3 of us that have implemented this that I know. We did that in Nasarawa, Kano has done it, and Kaduna also has done the same. But I strongly believe all the other governors talk very, very negatively about it, and they were all hot that we are having these problems.
I was going to bring in the issue of funding, but perhaps on a larger scale, because you talked about the oil benchmark at $57, and we know there's federal allocation to states. It's not just for this policy that you need funding. You need funding for the whole budget, as it were. So I'm just thinking, what's the prognosis for you ahead, especially in these hard times? How are you planning to fund your budget? I mean, a lot of questions, basically.
First, in Nasarawa, what we have done so far, since I came in, they call me the revenue governor, because every time I'm talking to them, I'm talking, and a good example is in Plateau State, when they were talking about the minimum wage. And the governor said, Nasarawa has not implemented. They say, no, that one is a private sector governor, so don't follow him. So they have all kinds of names for me. But that doesn't bother me. The first thing that we need to do, is to try and look at what we will be able to do. Since I came in, we've been able to move our internally generated revenue 100%, from where we used to be. On the ladder, where we used to be number 34 in the Federation, we are now number 29. My target is actually to be top 10, So, no, seriously, I think you smile about it. I'm going to work very hard about that, because we are having so many structures that is going to do that. Now we are actually plugging most of the loopholes, because Nasarawa, with the proximity to the federal capital, we have the capacity to generate revenue. We'll be another Ogun state, okay? So we have all these kinds of opportunities. It's a gateway state. So with all these kinds of opportunities, we have attracted a lot of companies since we came in, okay? Dangote now is there. Flour Mills is there. Azuman Rice is there. We have Olam that is there. We have more and more organizations that are coming up and setting up more to be able to employ our people, train them, as well as generate revenue. But we are also building our own structures. As I mentioned to you, we have the airport. I don't want to have an airport, a dead airport. After building such a wonderful airport, it's sitting there. Flights are coming just once in a while. So we're talking with the federal government, in such a way that maybe Air Force can use it. Maybe this, we have all kinds of opportunities.
If you were the governor at the time, would you have built an airport? Because people thought, why would Nasarawa State need an airport?
Believe me, I will have still built an airport, but perhaps maybe not the location where it is today. Maybe. But now that the governor has already done that, we must utilize it. That is one. Two, it also has come with another advantage, because it becomes really like an airport for security of Abuja. Okay? So with the distance, if it was somewhere in Karu where we have close to Abuja, a lot of people will not even go to Nnamdi Azikiwe airport. They will actually land at that airport and drive down. But then there are other implications, that will be there. So a lot of people also may not like the airport that are close. So in everything you do, you see the advantages and the disadvantages. So for me, I just see the positive and move on from there.
Still talking about funding, what kind of conversation are possible given the constraints of the Constitution and the opportunities in solid minerals, because I understand that every state in Nigeria has one solid mineral deposit or the other. What's the kind of conversation going on with the federal government on that to boost revenue?
In fact, I was one of them at the forefront when it comes about solid minerals, because that's our name, the home of solid minerals in Nasarawa State. We have all kinds of solid minerals in Nasarawa State. And a good one for that matter is the one in the oil and gas sector. It's called barite. You require barite for all kinds of oil drilling, onshore, offshore, and what have you. We have the highest quantity in Nasarawa State. In addition to that, we have a grinding facility owned by the Abacha family in Nasarawa State. They are not being used. Now, government has banned importation of solid minerals. I was the only governor, actually, that went to the biggest mining conference in South Africa, in Cape Town, called Mining in Daba, which happened last month. So I have to take mining more seriously. We have now contacted, 2 weeks after I was sworn in, I visited the Ministry of Solid Minerals. I wanted to know how many licenses they had given in Nasarawa State. You want to be shocked? Over 400 licenses were given in Nasarawa State. And the government, how much were generating from there? Zip.
How come?
Well, the minerals belong to the federal government. But I told them, with due respect, the land belongs to Nasarawa State. So how do you get to the minerals without going through the land? Okay? So that's how we came in. And Mr. Vice President was so kind. He decided to set up a committee, which I'm a member, committee of NEC, that we should review how licenses are given, how they are being managed. But that aside, we had now visited nearly every one of those sites.
The 400?
No, well, the ones that are operating.
Okay.
So we have roughly one operating the barite that I mentioned to you. One is operating zinc, lead, okay, that is there. Another one is operated mining columbite, another. So we had a couple of them. We had visited them. And so far, we have charged them the tenement rate as well as other rate. And I tell you something, they all paid. And we back charge them everything that they have not paid over the period of time, and they have all paid.
But don't you think that wouldn't it be a good idea for the country to sit down and have this conversation? Because just as you rightly said, look, the land belongs to the state. So what is wrong with the country having that conversation so that states can generate a lot more revenue and then pay something to the center?
I think that's the one that I told you, Mr. Vice President, being the chairman of NEC, decided to set up this committee to work on. And it was also part of the issues that I went to learn, in Cape Town when we went for this. And I asked questions. How is it managed in your country? How is it managed in Brazil? How is it? Because all the major players around the world were at Endeavor. That's the biggest mining event. Most of the financiers of mining were all there. So it was a fantastic opportunity. And that's the little experience I'm bringing also to the committee.
But do you think it will sail through? Because if they do this one, people will then ask, okay, well, we might as well do the same thing for oil as well.
And you see, that will be fantastic. You know what? That's the question. The moment I said it, now you are talking like the Minister of Solid Minerals. When I mentioned it to him, he said, yeah, so if we say that, they will do that. I say, you know what? I would love that. You know why we are having some of the problems we are having in Nigeria today? Is because we didn't do that, okay? If we had done that, there wouldn't have been problems with Sarawiwa and Co. If we had done that and the people were all part and parcel of this, I didn't say Nasarawa wants the minerals. No, take your minerals, it belongs to the federal government. Nobody is questioning about that. Let the royalty go to the federal government. Nobody is questioning about that.
But what do you say about those who, because some people in the South feel that some people in the North are afraid of that because they think if that happens, some states in the North they'll have nothing.
You see, control is different from being partnership. So when you use the word control, it's completely different. And in Nigeria today, I will tell you, the amount of offshore activities are by far more than what is happening onshore. All the big fields, Abami, Erha, Bonga, these are all major fields. These are all offshore.